Smoke flickered away in the gathering darkness. The wind smelled strongly of the ocean.
"It was a fine movie," allowed Mrs. Haas. "I never saw anything like when Moses parted the Red Sea."
Whiston laughed, so softly that the women probably didn't hear.
"You should have seen us all wading into the sea one day to get seaweed. DeMille had put up fences to show where the walls of water would be matted in later, and he had to shoot at exactly noon, or the fences would throw shadows, and at the last minute somebody pointed out that the path through what was supposed to be the red seabed was dry sand. So DeMille and everybody else went rushing into the surf to drag up kelp and spread it out on the path, and he got the shot before the shadows crept in."
And 100 people suddenly and spontaneously agitating the sea, thought Whiston, and them dragging a lot of living stuff out of the sea onto the land, roused my Ba hieroglyph sigil. It pulled its nails nearly all the way out of the Pharaoh's south wall, and I had to hammer it back flat and repaint it to match the painted plywood wall before anybody noticed. He took a few unsteady steps in a new direction across the sand, and his boots scuffed something that wasn't a pebble or a piece of plaster, and when he had bent down to pick it up and shake the sand off it, he held it out for the witches to see. It was a rusty metal disc, and by the fading light over the ocean it was possible to read Eastman Film stamped on the surface.
"This is the lid of a film can," he said. "We're in the right place. If the cameras were about here, the wall would have been east of us. Best we set up right here, between the wall and the sea." "Where is the wall?" quavered one of the witches. "Did it erode away to dust in just 5 years?" "No."
Whiston shrugged out of his knapsack and set it carefully on the sand.
DeMille, interfering son of a bitch that he was, hired bulldozers to dig a big deep trench and then damn well knock down the whole Pharaoh city set and push it into the trench and then bury it."
Whiston had got the knapsack open and now lifted out of it a lantern, an unwieldy 2-foot square cardboard portfolio, and after groping around a pair of needle-nose pliers. To the witch with the coffee can he said,
"Bring that over here."
When she had crouched beside him in the cold sand, he pressed the thumb lever to raise the lantern's glass globe, and with his free hand picked up the needle-nose pliers.
"You're going to light that lantern?"
asked the witch. Whiston recalled that her husband owned an Italian restaurant in Whittier. When he nodded distractedly, she went on,
"So why did I have to bring these coals?" "Not coals," he said, reaching into the coffee can with the pliers. "Embers, and you brought them to light the lantern with."
He caught a glowing piece of punkwood with the pliers and carefully held it under the bottom edge of the glass globe. The woman sniffed and said archly,
"Watch you don't set your breath on fire."
"Shut up," thought Whiston. In the kitchen of the high priestess's house back in San Pedro stood a 4-foot-tall Paschal candle. It had recently been stolen from a Catholic church in Redondo Beach, but its wick glowed with a flame whose combustion had been relayed via a long, difficult succession of torches, locomotive fireboxes, ship's lanterns, and even, for one anxious half-hour, the bowl of a briar pipe from the eternal flame at Baba Gurgur in Iraq. Whiston held the glowing ember of punkwood to the lantern's wick, but the oil-soaked fabric didn't catch fire. He bent down to blow on it, gently.
"But you could have lit the lantern back at Mrs. Haas's house," said the witch.
He couldn't see her face in the shadows under her hood, but she sounded irritable.
"It'd still be lit from the eternal flame, and I wouldn't have had to keep dropping bits of rotten wood into this can for 4 hours while we drove up here."
"You noticed," said Whiston tightly, as he prodded the recalcitrant wick with the ember,
"that Mrs. Haas had to send Cassie out to get coffee this afternoon. Her stove won't work with that candle flame preempting all the flame hood in her kitchen. Smoldering, it's what you might call asleep, but if it had been a flame in this lamp back in San Pedro, I doubt..."